Welcome to the Forgotten Narrator. There is a sound you don't hear so much as feel, a pressure behind the eyes, a ringing in the soul. You look up, and there it is, massive and black, without lights or markings, as though the void itself has come to rest above your city. The sky churns around it like it resents its presence. Birds fall from the air, children cry without knowing why. And across the hive, the silence of the population is absolute. No sirens, no declarations, no marching boots, only stillness, as if the entire world is holding its breath. The black ship has come. No one meets its arrival. There is no ceremony, no salute, no welcoming delegation. Not even the administratum dares to announce its coming. It docks as quietly as it descended, a beast that has swallowed stars and now hungers for minds. Every citizen knows what it means. Every sanctioned psyker feels the pressure increase. Every unsanctioned one goes pale, breath shallow, thoughts racing. Families shudder behind locked doors, praying they've hidden the signs well enough. Children with strange dreams are smuggled to the lowest levels, as if bricks and steel will hide them from destiny. But it is already too late. The black ship does not come to search, it comes to collect. To the unknowing observer, a black ship might seem like just another imperial vessel, vast and dark, one of countless thousands that chart the void. But to those who truly understand, it is something else entirely. A fragment of nightmare disguised as fleet. These ships are not warships in the traditional sense, though they are more heavily protected than most. They are not freighters, though they carry a cargo more dangerous than any weapon. They are, in truth, the spectral fingers of the Inquisition, and their presence signifies the Imperium's terrible burden. The need to harvest Psykers from its own people, to feed the hunger of the Golden Throne. Each black ship belongs to the Adeptus Astra Telepathica, that silent arcane institution tasked with managing the psychic potential of humanity. Yet to call them merely servants of the Telepathica is a simplification, if not a deliberate misdirection. The Inquisition, especially the Ordo Hereticus, plays a guiding role in their deployment and secrecy. The ships themselves are cloaked in void-shielded silence, shielded from warp interference with rights lost to most naval minds. Few know their routes, fewer still survive encounters with them uninvited. Even planetary governors are only told enough to ensure compliance. Those who fail to prepare the required tithe of Psykers risk accusations of heresy or worse. The vessels are monolithic. They possess no windows, no banners, no running lights. Only the insignia of the Inquisition, etched in charred black relief, occasionally marks their hulls. They seem like coffins for stars, moving with a deliberation and gravity that no normal ship mimics. Their architecture is a fusion of function and dogma. Hulls layered with sanctified adamantium, interiors filled with an unsettling mix of ecclesiarchal iconography and Sinal technology. Some whisper that no two black ships are the same. Some are ancient relics from the Great Crusade, others retrofitted cruisers turned into psychic prisons. All are terrifying. Internally, their paths are not laid out like any conventional vessel. They are mazes, filled with dead ends and forgotten rooms, some built with no purpose beyond isolating a scream or suppressing a soul. The bridges of these ships are eerily quiet, commanded not by chatty naval crews, but by somber officers sworn to silence. The Sisters of Silence often hold authority here, and their word is law. Even inquisitors tread carefully in their presence. Every system, every corridor, every locked vault is designed with a singular, grim goal: to contain, control, and convey a human cargo more unstable than any warp drive. Thousands upon thousands of Psykers plucked from a million worlds. The crew is minimal, selective, and often unknown. Some are Psyker handlers, others servitors whose minds have been reduced to instinct. Some are nulls, whose very existence negates the warp's influence. All are fanatically loyal or utterly mindless. The idea is simple: no risk of rebellion, no chance for empathy. The less emotional contact with the cargo, the better. A Psyker sensing kindness might try to escape, manipulate, or possess. A crew member feeling pity might hesitate when a screaming child begs to be let out. A hesitation aboard a black ship is more dangerous than in any war zone. And always, orbiting behind this eerie construct, is the knowledge of its purpose. The Psykers it carries will not see freedom. Most will not live beyond a few months. Their journey ends on Terra, in a chamber deep beneath the Imperial Palace, where their minds will be consumed by the emperor himself to maintain the Astronomicon. It is the darkest sacrifice imaginable, yet without it, humanity would be blind in the void. The black ships, then, are not just tools of collection, they are symbols. They represent the invisible machinery of the Imperium. The cost in lives and hope that sustains a regime built on survival over morality. They are the quiet executioners of potential, the ships that carry dreams to their death, all while maintaining the lie of a unified, glorious empire of man. And behind every docking, every collection, every departure, there is the unspoken truth. The Imperium does not save its Psykers. It uses them, fears them, and disposes of them. The black ships are simply the method by which this truth moves through the stars. When the tithe is called, it doesn't come with ceremony. There is no trumpet, no declaration. Only a short message from the local Adeptus Arbites or governor's office, a listing of individuals to be brought forward. Sometimes these names were known. Whispers in the underhive, unexplained fires, a child who stared too long into the void and knew things they should not have known. Other times, the names are new. A surprise, a betrayal, a revelation. And once they are listed, there is no appeal. The Psyker cull has begun. Imperial citizens like to believe the process is precise, methodical, humane even. After all, is not the Imperium merciful in its infinite wisdom? But the reality is something else entirely. The tithe is a dragnet. Local authorities sweep wide, not just for known Psykers, but for anyone suspected, reported, or feared to have psychic potential. It's better to over-deliver than to under-report. Failure to meet quota is heresy, so entire families are sometimes taken. Children as young as 4 are dragged from homes. Old men who once muttered in their sleep are loaded into armored transports. There are no trials, there are no explanations. The will of the Imperium needs no justification. The harvest varies from world to world. On shrine worlds, the tithe is a religious procession, complete with incense and chanting, where Psykers are handed over in white robes as if to martyrdom. On feral worlds, it's a hunt. Agents of the Imperium scouring the wilds for witches, spoken of in fearful legends. On hive worlds, it's clinical and cruel, with the tithe gathered in batches like livestock, penned in holding camps, and interrogated by sanctioned Psykers to test their danger level. Every world believes its method righteous. None can change it. And what of the Psykers themselves? Some go willingly, indoctrinated to believe they serve a holy cause. Some scream until their voices break, collapsing into spasms as their powers lash out in desperation. Others weep in silence, already numb to fate. The moment they are chosen, their lives as citizens of the Imperium end. They are now part of something else: cargo, property, fuel. Even the term harvest carries an agricultural cruelty to it, as if Psykers were a crop to be reaped rather than people to be saved. In truth, the process is only partly about psychic threat management. The Imperium does not merely fear unsanctioned Psykers, it needs them. The Astronomicon, the psychic beacon that allows warp travel across the galaxy, is a flame that consumes souls. Thousands of Psykers must be sacrificed each day to keep the light burning. So the black ships do not just collect, they feed the throne. They do not eliminate the threat, they farm it. It is a grim cycle of utility and annihilation. The tragedy is compounded by the fact that a tiny percentage of those harvested are powerful enough and stable enough to be trained and sanctioned. These few are inducted into the Scholastica Psychana, taught to control their powers and serve the Imperium in sanctioned roles. Astropaths, battle Psykers, diviners, even interrogators of the Inquisition. But this is the rarest of exceptions. For every sanctioned Psyker, tens of thousands die in torment. Not because they were evil, but because the Imperium cannot afford to risk their instability. Better to sacrifice 10,000 potential minds than let one demon breach the veil. To witness a culling is to understand the cost of the Imperium's survival. It is not a proud ritual. It is a logistical necessity wrapped in religious justification. It is the machine of empire grinding over the souls of its own children. The administratum calculates the harvest like grain. The ecclesiarchy sanctifies the act. The Inquisition enforces compliance, and the populace, helpless, learns to turn their eyes away. To survive is to not think too deeply. To believe that those taken are serving a higher cause. To tell yourself again and again that it could never be you. Even though deep down, you know it could. The Psykers are not the only ones who ride the black ships. Behind the sealed doors and hexagrammatic wards, in chambers where the warp itself seems to recoil, are beings far more composed than the shivering harvest. They move without sound, without emotion, without the burden of empathy. They are not simply guards. They are not simply crew. They are shadows of the Imperium's unspoken truths. For among the cargo, wedged between madness and miracles, travel the unnamed passengers of the black ships. Foremost among them are the Sisters of Silence. Their name is known, but their presence is rarer than rumor. Their faces are often hidden behind gilded masks or cowled hoods, their expressions unreadable even if you dared to look. They are pariahs, blanks, humans born without a soul's warp echo. In their presence, psychers wither, warp entities recoil, emotions die. To stand near a Sister of Silence is to feel one's thoughts turn to dust, one's dreams silenced at the root. They do not speak because they cannot, and they do not need to. Their aura is command enough. The Sisters serve as both wardens and protectors aboard the black ships. Without them, even the most reinforced vault could not contain the sheer psychic pressure of 1,000 terrified minds. It is their null presence that keeps the ship from tipping into nightmare, their soulless gravity anchoring reality to steel and structure. But the Sisters are not alone. Inquisitors sometimes ride the black ships. Not often and never publicly, but their presence is felt like a knife hidden under robes. Ordo Hereticus agents use these vessels to move through the stars without fanfare, without notice. They observe the tithe, they sample the harvest, and sometimes they pluck a psyker from the masses for reasons known only to them. No one questions this. No one refuses. To question an inquisitor is to question the will of the emperor himself. Astropaths are sometimes present as well, though their minds are shielded, their mouths sealed. Bound and blindfolded, they act not as crew, but as waystones, anchors of sanctioned psychic clarity in a sea of chaotic potential. Their presence is both a stabilizer and a warning. They have seen the Emperor. Their minds are fortified. If even one of them begins to tremble, something unspeakable is happening aboard. Some of the passengers are living weapons. The Officio Assassinorum has been known to slip agents onto black ships, not for defense, but for execution. If a psyker becomes too unstable, too dangerous, even containment may not be enough. A Vindicare bullet to the base of the skull, a Culexus anti-presence erasure, a Calidus infiltrator seeding poison through fear. It happens quietly, efficiently, and without paperwork. Servitors maintain the base functions of the ship, but even among them are variations designed solely for these voyages. Psychic suppressor servitors, null field emitters grafted into flesh, floating sensor clusters that detect warp anomalies before they manifest. These machines, stripped of humanity, are more than maintenance. They are the first line of reaction in a ship where one uncontrolled thought could mean disaster. Then there are the acolytes, those of the Inquisition, the Astra Telepathica, or unknown institutions. They do not speak of their masters. They record, they listen, they examine, and sometimes when no one is looking, they extract, not psychers, information, secrets, memories. The black ships are not just collectors of minds, but of knowledge, and the value of that knowledge cannot be underestimated in a galaxy where prophecy, sorcery, and madness often converge. Even darker rumors persist, that black ships occasionally carry pariahs in development, not yet sisters, but blanks identified and quarantined, that they transport cursed artifacts too dangerous to store elsewhere, that they house the remnants of failed experiments, proto-sanctioned psychers whose powers could not be tamed, yet were too important to destroy outright. And perhaps, once in a millennium, a soul so potent it draws daemons across the warp like moths to a fire. These passengers do not walk the same halls as the harvested psychers. They move along maintenance tubes, behind sealed vaults, within elevator shafts and shadowed ducts. They are seen only by those who already know their place in the hierarchy. And even among the black ships a hierarchy exists. Those who are cargo, those who are custodians, and those who are the quiet hand of the Imperium, invisible but ever present. When a black ship departs a world, it is not just a vessel of the damned, it is a congregation of silence and shadow, of suffering and control. And those who travel aboard, those unnamed, unseen passengers, are the quiet architects of survival. Each one plays a role in keeping the nightmare contained. Each one ensures the cargo does not become catastrophe. But none of them, not even the Inquisitors, sleep well aboard the black ships, because they all know that in the end, they are riding not just a ship, but a weapon aimed at the very soul of humanity. There are places aboard the black ships that even the Sisters of Silence hesitate to enter. Vaults deeper than storage, colder than machinery, darker than the void outside. Here, beyond the layers of steel and sanctified rockcrete, lie the warp-wardened vaults, the heart of the ship's psychic suppression systems and the final resting places for thousands of unstable Psykers. These are not cells, they are containment oubliettes. Each one a tomb designed not for death, but for containment without hope. The vaults are arrayed in concentric rings, each more secure than the last, like the petals of a steel lotus grown in the soil of terror. At the center lies the deepest chamber, the Silence Core, where only the highest threat Psykers are kept, often restrained not only by psychic dampeners but physical restraints embedded directly into their nervous systems. No light shines here. Light, after all, is a form of energy. And any energy might be bent by a powerful enough mind into a key. Every chamber is constructed with hexagrammic wards inscribed into every inch of metal. These are not decorations. They are glyphs of containment, arcane geometries inherited from lost Martian sects, emperor-forged rituals, and fragments of forbidden knowledge dating back to the dark age of technology. The wards are carved with such precision that a single imperfection, a half degree of error in an etched line, could be fatal. Maintenance servitors tasked with upkeep are lobotomized and fitted with optical filters to prevent insanity. Human minds are not meant to perceive the full geometry of the vaults. Containment cells vary by Psyker class. Weak or newly manifested Psykers may find themselves in what seem like small dormitories, albeit stripped of any comfort, rooms with beds bolted to the floor and nutrient dispensers that function only when the subject is calm. But those are illusions of mercy. These chambers are constantly bathed in null field radiation. Invisible fields sap the strength of thought, leach the emotion from dreams, and press down on the mind like an ever-present fog. Some prisoners begin screaming within hours. Others simply forget who they are. As threat levels increase, containment becomes more inhuman. Medium-grade Psykers are confined in isolation tanks, levitating coffins suspended in magnetic fields, filled with amniotic fluid laced with neural suppressants and inhibitors. Electrosorceric nodes line the tanks, each capable of delivering a mind-shattering shock the moment any fluctuation in warp resonance is detected. Many never awaken. Some awaken too many times. The most dangerous are never truly conscious. Alpha plus level Psykers, potential daemon hosts, or those who have exhibited uncontrolled psychic phenomena are entombed in cryostasis null tombs, slabs of psychoactive crystals surrounded by 12 concentric rings of pariah-fueled generators. These are housed in absolute vacuum, suspended in inertia null fields that not only suppress psychic emission, but sever the subject's awareness from time itself. It is not sleep, it is unbeing, and even then, there are failures. Psychic bleed is a constant threat. Even unconscious Psykers radiate emotion, hallucination, and horror. Entire decks of black ships are given over to psychic baffles, engineered spaces where the nightmares of the cargo can be vented, absorbed, or contained. These are not manned. They cannot be. The walls pulse with memories that were never yours. Voices whisper from cracks in the ceiling. Some say the very ship groans with sorrow. Emotion is carefully regulated. Even crew members must suppress their feelings. Love, hate, fear, anything too strong can act as a beacon, a crack in the armor. A powerful Psyker might reach out, even unknowingly, and latch onto a memory, a desire, a regret, and in doing so, twist it, amplify it, break free. For this reason, the Sisters of Silence are critical. Their null presence is not just a suppressive field, it is a dead zone in which psychic tendrils wither and die. They are the living vaults within the vaults. Some containment systems are older than the ships themselves. There are technologies aboard black ships that no tech priest understands but none dare remove. Vault 27B on one such vessel has been sealed since M35. No one remembers what was placed inside. The logs are corrupted, the servitors assigned to it speak in reversed binary, and the sisters refuse to approach it. But the chamber remains cold, and the glyphs still glow, so it is left undisturbed. The warp-wardened vaults are more than just cells. They are sanctuaries against the apocalypse, repositories of peril, reminders that the line between survival and extinction is as thin as a single uncontained thought. Each cell is a prayer against chaos, each containment glyph a blade aimed at the throat of the immaterium. And in this silence, enforced by steel and sacrifice, the Imperium dares to hope that one more Psyker might reach Terra without catastrophe. The Sisters of Silence do not speak. They cannot speak. Their very presence is a void in the warp, an absence so total it unravels the mind. Where they walk, the whispers of the Immaterium fall silent. Where they stand, demons recoil as if from fire. Among the silent sentinels of the black ships, they are both guardians and executioners, midwives to the death of potential and the preservation of the Imperium. Each sister is a blank, an untouchable, born without a soul, or more precisely, born outside the warp's echo. This condition is rare, feared, and hated by most of humanity. To a normal person, standing near a blank is deeply unsettling. The mind recoils instinctively, as though faced with a hole in reality. Thoughts become sluggish, emotions dim. Joy, sorrow, even memory begins to feel artificial, distorted. Some vomit, others weep without understanding why. But for a Psyker, it is far worse. A Psyker caught in a sister's aura suffers like a candle pressed to ice. Their connection to the warp phrase. Visions turn to migraines. Precognition becomes confusion. Some feel as though they are suffocating. Others go mad in minutes. And yet on the black ships, the sisters are salvation. Without them, the ship would be overrun within days. The harvested Psykers are not trained. Many do not understand what they are. Some are already possessed. Others are on the verge. The sisters walk among them like shepherds in a field of fire, their null presence extinguishing every spark before it becomes ablaze. They move with purpose, clad in Baroque armor that gleams like sanctified obsidian. Their tabards bear the sigils of their ancient order, symbols older than most planets, predating even the Horus heresy. Their weapons are practical but precise. Bolt pistols, execution blades, psyshock grenades. But their greatest weapon is their silence. It is not just the absence of sound, it is the absence of temptation, manipulation, seduction. A sister's silence cannot be lied to, cannot be persuaded, cannot be turned. It is a wall against the warp. Training to become a sister is brutal. Potential blanks are identified early, often by accident, and brought to the Fortress of the Quiet on Luna, or to hidden convents scattered across the galaxy. There they are taught to endure isolation, resist emotional manipulation, and master the disciplines of combat and control. Many do not survive, but those who do emerge transformed, avatars of stillness, cloaked in the armor of will. On the black ships, the sisters fulfill multiple roles. They maintain discipline among the Psykers, administering sedatives, suppressants, and, when needed, death. They oversee containment rituals, walking the halls in patterns known only to them, reinforcing the silent lattice that holds the ship's sanity together. They report only to the ship's commander, and even then, only with gestures or written notes. Many ships forego traditional communication entirely, relying on iconography and lighting cues. Language, in the presence of the sisters, becomes obsolete. But their silence is not apathy. It is not coldness. Within the cloistered chambers of their order, the sisters feel deeply. Many carry sorrow like a mantle, memories of families who rejected them, lives they could never live, relationships severed by the dread of their condition. But they sublimate this pain into purpose. They believe in the Imperium, not as a regime, but as a necessary fire that must burn to keep the universe from freezing in the grip of chaos. Some sisters volunteer for missions beyond even the black ships. They serve alongside the Inquisition, hunting rogue Psykers, silencing demonic cults, escorting alpha-level threats to execution. These are the most elite, void blades whose presence alone can tip the balance of a psychic battle. Daemon hosts falter when a sister enters the room. Sorcerers stammer. Possessed men weep as their link to the warp is severed by a mere glance. And yet, for all their power, the sisters are unsung. They do not feature in sermons. They are not depicted in stained glass. The ecclesiarchy fears them, for their null nature disrupts the warp-born rituals so beloved by priests. Many imperial citizens believe they are myths or worse, abominations. The sisters accept this. They do not seek praise, they seek containment. Every moment aboard a black ship is a test. Every step is a prayer made without words. The Sisters of Silence do not command the ship. They do not chart the course, but they determine whether the voyage ends in salvation or screams. They are the ones who stand alone in the vault when a psyker begins to burn from within. They are the ones who enter without fear when others flee. And when the time comes, they are the ones who place a bolt round between the eyes of a child gone too far, too bright, too loud. Because silence, in the end, is not just the absence of sound. It is the weapon that guards the Imperium's most fragile hope. Imagine being among the harvested, taken from your home, your planet, your family, without explanation, without mercy. You don't know where you're going. You only know that everything smells like oil and burning incense. You're herded like cattle, locked in a dark metal corridor that hums with a pressure you can't name. There are no stars outside the portholes. There are no portholes. You are in a place that hates the warp, hates light, hates you. And you are not alone. In the belly of the black ship, Psykers live a nightmare that has no name. Every emotion is amplified. Every fear is sharpened. The warp is not some distant realm anymore. It is within, scratching at the walls of your skull. Your dreams leak into the air. You hear voices that are not yours. You feel things that are not feelings. Some weep for home. Others begin to laugh. A few stare for days at nothing, as if their minds stepped out of their bodies and never returned. The cargo hold, if it can be called that, is a labyrinth of cells, tanks, cages, and isolation chambers. The youngest Psykers are kept apart, though this does little to stop the spread of madness. The air is always cold, yet it tastes like something burnt. Sometimes the ship groans, not from stress, but from pressure not born in the material realm. You think it's a hull breach, but it's your own soul trying to escape. Many Psykers do not survive the first few days. The weaker ones break. Some erupt in uncontrolled outbursts, flashes of flame, sudden levitations, unintentional mind rapes. Others simply die, their bodies imploding under the pressure of a power they cannot control. The Sisters of Silence are always watching. They do not blink. They do not flinch. They step forward and silence these eruptions with shocking speed. Sometimes they act before anything even happens, sensing the psychic shift before it manifests. To the survivors, it feels like living under the gaze of death itself. Worse than death, though, are the whispers. Some Psykers begin to hear things. Familiar voices urging them to unleash their potential, to resist, to fight. Others speak in languages they never learned, chant names no human mouth should know. And once in a while, one of them answers. The daemon is not always loud. It may not even announce itself. But the change is visible. The eyes too dark, the smile too steady, the silence too perfect. And then the shadows move the wrong way. When a Psyker is possessed aboard a black ship, the entire vessel feels it. Alarms do not sound. The sound would only add fuel to the fire. Instead, the temperature drops. Lights flicker. A low vibration begins, not from the engines but from the bulkheads themselves. Doors lock, pathways seal. The Sisters mobilize. Sometimes containment holds. Other times it does not. Mutinies are rare, but psychic storms are not. One young woman, barely older than 16, once caused an entire wing of cells to collapse inward, crushing 30 Psykers to paste in the blink of an eye. She didn't mean to. She was afraid. That was all it took. Her cellmate had tried to comfort her. He died screaming, eyes bursting from his skull. She cried afterward, whispering apologies until her mouth filled with blood. She was executed in silence. Others tried to escape. Not through doors or corridors, but with their minds. Some seek to merge with others, like parasites, turning their fellow prisoners into extensions of themselves. The Sisters detect this too. They call it mind skinning. It ends the same way, with a bolt round or a null weapon flensing the mind from the flesh. And yet, despite the horror, a few survive. A few begin to understand their power, not to control it, but to endure it. They withdraw into themselves, focusing not on freedom, but on survival. These are the ones who might be chosen. Not for life, but for use. For service to the throne. Their minds are like razor blades, dangerous but capable of being wielded. They are not celebrated, they are not praised, they are noted, tagged, and moved to better cells. Still, no one feels hope. Even those chosen know what awaits. Terror is not salvation, it is consumption. The Emperor does not speak, but he hungers. The Astronomicon must be fed. In the end, those who whisper survive longer than those who scream. Not because they are stronger, but because they understand the truth. The black ship is not a prison. It is a passage, and no one returns. Some black ships never reach Terra. There are records, heavily redacted, whispered in the inquisitorial archives of ships that vanish in the void, their fate unknown. But worse are the ones that return silent. No signals, no survivors. Just a vessel adrift, hull intact, lights dim, containment breached. Recovery teams enter with full psychic shielding, escorted by elite kill teams and pariah-cloaked agents. And what they find is never the same. Sometimes the black ship is empty. Every psyker gone, every crew member vanished. No signs of struggle, just cells left open, beds still warm, tools resting on the floor. The logs are erased, the ship's machine spirit broken and terrified. It refuses to speak. The servitors are inert. One inquisitor described the experience as walking through a dream someone else forgot to finish. Another simply never spoke again. Other times the ship is full. Too full. Psykers fuse together by uncontrolled warp surges, their bodies a mass of limbs and teeth and screaming mouths that never stop. The walls are scorched with psychic fire, hexagrammic wards melted from the inside. Blanks found dead, their null auras twisted into blackened echoes. The few survivors babble in tongues or gouge their own eyes, unable to forget what they saw. They are not executed out of mercy. They are kept, studied, feared. Mutiny is one explanation. Psykers, in desperation or madness, banding together to break containment. But that alone cannot explain the sheer scale of some incidents. The psychic force required to override a black ship's wards is staggering. It suggests either a coordinated surge or an outside force. Something waiting in the warp. Something that smells the ship's cargo and reaches out with claws made of dreams and lies. Daemon incursion is the word used in the reports. But even that seems insufficient. These aren't the precise, goal-driven breaches seen in war zones. They're messier, more personal. The ship becomes a stage for horror. Rooms rearrange themselves, airlocks open without warning. Crew members see loved ones begging for help, only to realize they're already dead. The Jeller field should protect against this. But in these cases, it doesn't fail. It never existed. There are whispers of a specific pattern, the echo cycle. A theory among radical Ordo Hereticus agents that certain ships enter not the warp, but a mirror of it. A reflection of the black ship itself created by the concentrated psychic pressure aboard. A realm shaped by guilt, fear, and the accumulated suffering of thousands of Psykers. The ship becomes haunted, not by spirits, but by its own history. Every failed containment, every silenced scream, every death echoes into this mirror. And eventually the ship answers. Some inquisitors believe these events are messages, that the Imperium is being warned, that there's a cost to the call, a psychic debt building across millennia, that one day something will come to collect. Others dismiss this as heresy, kill the messengers, and burn the ships. Still, the pattern continues. There are cases of crew going rogue, not due to possession, but empathy. One documented incident describes a ship's captain who began speaking to the Psykers in secret. He brought them books, wrote them letters, tried to organize debate groups among the stable ones. He believed that kindness would stabilize their powers. It didn't. Within 2 weeks, 7 Psykers had bonded into a collective consciousness and attempted to rewrite the laws of containment with pure will. The captain was found whispering equations in blood, his brain consumed by the warp from the inside out. And what of the Sisters of Silence during such events? Most fall in battle, fighting until the ship goes dark. But some disappear. Null aura traces are found burned into the bulkheads, as if reality itself rejected their sacrifice. The most disturbing theory suggests that, in the final moments, it is the sisters who choose to destroy the ship. Not out of failure, but out of necessity. They cut the Jeller field. They open the vaults. They send the entire cursed vessel into the heart of the warp, rather than let its contents reach Terra. These are the black ships that are never spoken of. Their names erased, their logs sealed behind sigils only the High Lords understand. But they exist, and they are growing in number. No one dares say why. But one day, perhaps, a ship will arrive above Terra. Its exterior pristine, its signal clear. But when they open the docking bay, there will be nothing inside. Just silence. And a whisper that does not stop. The cargo of a black ship is supposed to be known. Psykers, contained and silenced. But the galaxy is vast, and the Imperium's agents are opportunistic. Not all vessels return to Terra carrying only their assigned tithe. Some come bearing things too strange, too dangerous, or too valuable to leave behind. These are the unholy spoils of war, the things taken from Xeno's ruins, daemon worlds, and heretic strongholds, and hidden among the holds of the Silent Fleet. When an Inquisitor leads a campaign against a sorcerer cult or uncovers a forbidden vault on a long-lost colony, the Black Ship becomes more than a transport. It becomes a vault. A mobile reliquary for blasphemous objects, sentient artifacts, or entities too volatile to trust to lesser ships. Such cargo is rarely documented in official manifests. Often, the crew is not even aware it's aboard. Sometimes it's hidden in subchambers only accessible to inquisitorial sigils, sealed behind rites unknown to the Adeptus Mechanicus. Among the most common illicit cargo are Xenos artifacts, objects that radiate psychic energy but whose function is incomprehensible. Eldar spirit stones, Necron stasis spheres, Tyranid synaptic nodes that still pulse with hive echoes. These are not trophies. They are tools of interrogation, research, or containment. Some Inquisitors believe that understanding the warp across species lines is key to humanity's survival. Others simply wish to deny such weapons to the enemy. There are also books, not tomes, not scrolls, books, bound in leather that isn't leather, inked in blood that whispers in sleep, heretical texts, demonic codices, recovered fragments of the Book of Magnus, or pages from the Liber Malefic. Why are they taken aboard? To study? To destroy? Or to barter? Some Inquisitors traffic in knowledge. Others believe it is their duty to know the enemy's tools. Either way, the Black Ship becomes a floating library of damned insight, hidden beneath thousands of screaming Psykers. More dangerous still are living things. Not human Psykers, but things that were once human, or never were. Sorcerers trapped in stasis. Cult leaders whose minds have been half-flayed, preserved for psychic interrogation. Entities bound in null crystals that do not breathe but still think. Some are test subjects. Others are evidence. A few are trophies. There are black ships with vaults that carry only one item, a soul in a box, gifted from one Inquisitor to another as a warning or a reminder. Then there are the relics of lost experiments, weapons forged with warp-reactive materials, null grenades harvested from Tulexis stockpiles, unstable psi matter that reacts violently to thought. These are kept far from the Psykers, in chambers surrounded by sister wards, often guarded by servitors too mindless to dream. But accidents happen. There are accounts, scrubbed, forbidden, of Psykers awakening to the presence of such objects, not from proximity but from recognition, as if some part of them remembers the item even if they never encountered it before. And always there is the whisper of the truly forbidden, daemon weapons. Not chaos-tainted blades, but weapons that are daemons or prisons for them. Why would such things be taken aboard a ship meant to protect the Imperium from psychic corruption? The answer lies in politics. An Inquisitor may need to deliver such an item to Terra, or seal it forever in the Black Ship's internal sanctum, or more rarely, study it on the way. The risk is immense, but power has always carried risk. Some Black Ships even serve dual roles. While their primary mission is the Psyker harvest, they act simultaneously as retrieval vessels for exterminatus sites, warp storm anomalies, or ancient battlefields where psychic residue saturates the soil. These missions are often unannounced. The crew is not informed. Only the Inquisitor and the Sisters know. Sometimes, not even they know the full truth. The ship becomes not a vessel of mercy or culling, but a floating tomb of secrets too volatile for any fortress to hold. It's not unheard of for such cargo to be forgotten or ignored by the time the ship reaches Terra. When Psyker screams echo through every corridor, who would notice a single locked door at the end of an unused maintenance shaft? Who would question a room with no key? These secrets become part of the ship, passed down through generations of silent crew. Never opened, never spoken of. But they wait. Because the Black Ships do not just carry the future of the Imperium in the form of Psyker fuel. They carry its past, its failures, its ambitions, and sometimes its sins. Hidden in cold metal, behind layers of silence, the unholy spoils of war ride alongside the damned. Not all Psykers aboard the Black Ships are mere prisoners. Not all are even meant to survive. Some are test subjects in chains, experiments in potential, tools of inquiry for those within the Imperium who dare to ask the forbidden question. Can psychic power be mastered, controlled, and even engineered? Within the vaults and chambers few know exist, beyond the silence of the sisters and even the reach of the Inquisition's lesser eyes, lie the forbidden experiments. To understand these trials, one must understand the scale of ambition that haunts the High Lords and their agents. The Emperor was a Psyker, a being of such unfathomable psychic might that even the greatest of his children paled in comparison. And though his body is broken, his mind endures, holding back the darkness through the Astronomicon. But it takes sacrifice. 1,000 Psykers a day, consumed by his will. This is not sustainable, not forever. And so some among the Adeptus Astra Telepathica, the Inquisition, and even the Mechanicus have dared to ask, what if we could make Psykers better? More stable? More obedient? Or more useful? The results are horrifying. There are rumors, unconfirmed, always denied, of the Pariah engine, a mechanism deep in Luna's hidden laboratories capable of generating or modifying blanks. The process is not genetic, it is metaphysical. Some black ships deliver blanks not as protectors but as raw material. Psykers and blanks housed in proximity, exposed to each other in tightly controlled conditions. Observers record everything: mental degradation, emotional collapse, biological mutations. Some subjects merge traits, others simply explode in silence. Other experiments focus on psychic saturation. Certain Psykers, those with rare mutations or deep trauma, are placed in conditions meant to heighten their abilities to the brink of collapse. Isolation chambers are flooded with warp stimuli, sourced from captured demonic relics. The Psyker is forced to respond, adapt, evolve. Some burn out, some tear themselves apart, but a few grow stronger. Their minds become scarred but hardened, like bone set wrong but unbroken. These Psykers are catalogued, marked for retrieval by shadow agents. No one knows where they go next. A few survive long enough to be used in ghost choirs, forced psychic networks of synchronized minds. These experiments, deemed too unstable for battlefield use, test the possibility of combining lesser Psykers into a gestalt entity. The potential rewards are immense. Psychic artillery capable of mind-scorching entire enemy battalions, warp beacons that don't rely on astropaths, or weapons capable of short-range banishment. The cost, however, is catastrophic. Psychic backlash, feedback loops, and mutual mental annihilation are common. Some ghost choirs end with the minds of all participants fusing into a single, gibbering psychic echo. More controversial are the mirror trials. In these, Psykers are placed into artificial dreamscapes generated by arcane machinery, devices reverse-engineered from Eldar spirit matrices, or forbidden Dark Age relics. These dreams test morality, willpower, and loyalty. A Psyker who resists temptation in the dream is deemed safe. Those who embrace power, even for noble reasons, are flagged. Most are executed immediately. But some Inquisitors intervene, claiming these Psykers are precisely the kind needed, willing to embrace the warp, but not be consumed by it. Then there are the Emperor proxy experiments. Aboard certain black ships deep within the sealed pilgrimage vaults, Psykers are subjected to direct psychic contact with a sliver of the Emperor's will. This is not a vision or dream. It is a calibrated exposure, using relics known as astral keys, fragmented echoes of the Emperor's mind preserved in psychic resonance. The results are unpredictable. Some Psykers die instantly, their souls immolated in rapture. Others begin speaking in tongues, reciting lost scripture. A rare few seem chosen, their powers stabilizing, their madness replaced with serene clarity. These are never seen again. It is said they are taken to Terra, not to be sacrificed, but to serve. In what capacity, no one knows. The ethical implications of these experiments are not discussed, they are not debated, they are hidden, buried under layers of silence and misdirection. Every Psyker harvested is technically marked for judgment by the Scholastia Psychona, but not all reach that destination. Some are diverted, redirected, studied, sacrificed in the name of knowledge that cannot be printed, logged, or acknowledged. Even the Sisters of Silence, so stoic in their duty, sometimes turn away. Because there is no mercy in these trials. No dignity. The Psykers are not enemies, but they are not people either. They are fuel, and in the forbidden chambers of the black ships, they are shaped into something else: weapons, vessels, warnings. The black ships are not just prisons, they are laboratories of despair. Places where the Imperium's most blasphemous questions are asked in whispers. Not for salvation, not for hope, but for control. Most think of the black ships as entirely cold, mechanical, as if only Psykers and their null wardens walk the decks. But even among that cruel procession, there are others, humans neither cursed with psychic power nor trained to suppress it, but nonetheless bound to the black ship's voyage. These are the pilgrims, the witnesses, and the sacrifices. They go not as cargo, not as crew, but as something in between, necessary souls whose faith and presence serve a higher, more spiritual function aboard these haunted vessels. Among the most enduring of these passengers are the confessors, priests of the ecclesiarchy assigned not to preach, but to listen. They sit outside Psyker cells, robes worn and eyes hollow, and absorb the sins of the damned. The Psykers are not absolved, but confession, even in a ship built to erase humanity, is allowed. Why? Because it steadies the soul. It offers shape to guilt, structure to madness. The confessors carry the weight of those stories, whispers of possession, moments of weakness, cries for mercy that will never be answered. They do not judge, they merely endure. Some are driven mad, others become as steel. All are silent by the end. Then there are the pilgrims. These are the faithful who have volunteered or been ordered to travel aboard the black ships as part of a spiritual penance. Some are from noble lines, seeking redemption for psychic bloodlines. Others are from hive slums, selected by lottery or drawn by visions. They walk the halls reciting litanies, burning incense and weeping prayers. Their presence is not practical, but symbolic. They remind the Psykers and the crew that this is not just a voyage of fear, it is a procession of faith, a funeral march with meaning. Some of these pilgrims are marked as living saints, most are not. A few claim to hear the Emperor's voice among the screaming Psykers. One even claimed to see a golden light surrounding a child marked for sacrifice. She was executed quietly, not for heresy, but for disruption. The black ship tolerates no deviation from its path. Beyond pilgrims are the witnesses. These are often members of local governments, arbites, or even planetary nobility, who are granted temporary passage to observe the process of the harvest. The ostensible reason is accountability, to show that the process is just. But the true purpose is different: to terrify, to silence, to warn. A governor who has seen a black ship from within never delays the next tithe. A bureaucrat who hears the psychic screaming of 1,000 children never complains again. Witnesses rarely speak of what they've seen, and those who do tend to disappear. Not all sacrifices aboard the black ships are Psykers. There are servitors built from volunteers, pilgrims who offer their minds willingly to the machine for the chance to be part of the holy journey. They are remade, flesh turned to steel, their voices silenced not by null fields but by lobotomy. They clean, they operate machinery, they chant praise scripts written into their code. They are what remains when faith is taken to its final form. And sometimes, rarely, a true sacrifice is offered. A saint's descendant, condemned by ancestral guilt, a cardinal's son, born without a soul, placed aboard to observe and perhaps suffer. These are not rituals, they are political messages. The Imperium's way of showing that no one is above the burden of the harvest. These sacrifices do not often reach Terra. They are consumed by the voyage, mentally, physically, spiritually. All of them, the confessors, the pilgrims, the witnesses, and the sacrifices, serve a vital role. Not in logistics or navigation, but in maintaining the psychic and spiritual equilibrium of the ship. The warp reacts to fear, to despair, to hate. These passengers bring purpose. They ground the ship in ritual, in belief. The black ship is not just a vessel of collection. It is a cathedral in motion, a monastery of mourning. And yet, no one speaks of them. They are not listed in records. They are not honored in memorials. They exist in the margins of duty and sacrifice, filling roles that are never named. Their deaths are quiet, often unmarked. Their prayers are unfinished. But they are there, walking the cold halls between Psyker cells and null vaults, candles in hand, hope in their hearts. Not to save the Psykers, but to keep the ship from becoming something worse. There comes a moment in every black ship's journey when the stars shift, the hum of the warp engine grows more solemn, and the presence of something vast and silent fills the corridors like a rising tide. The ship is nearing Terra. The final leg is not the longest by distance, but it is the most dangerous. The Psykers, many of them near death or driven to madness, begin to feel it, the pull of the Emperor. Not metaphorically, not as a figure of worship, but as a psychic gravity so dense, so pure, that even the weakest soul can feel its weight. It does not comfort them, it crushes them. It draws their thoughts into static, their dreams into golden fire, and their minds into judgment. The void outside becomes dense with security. Terra is more than a planet. It is a fortress of stars. Layers of orbital stations, shipyards, and defense platforms form a barrier of steel and sanctity. The Black Ship broadcasts its clearance codes, many of them older than some planets, and is guided in by silent escort. Other vessels clear a path. No one interferes with a Black Ship on final approach. Inside, the ship becomes even quieter. The Sisters of Silence walk more frequently. The wards are checked again and again. The cargo is prepared for disembarkation. But this is not a celebration. There is no relief, only finality. Each Psyker is assessed one last time, not for redemption but for compatibility. Those whose minds remain intact, whose powers are stable and predictable, are separated. They may be sent to the Scholastia Psychona, trained, shaped, perhaps even honored in time. This is the rarest fate. The rest are divided by potency and psychic signature. Some are chosen for specific tasks, feeding the Astronomicon, acting as human components in psychic machines, or being burned alive in the rituals of sanctification that take place within the Imperial Palace's darkest chambers. The strongest among them, the ones who radiate power like suns, are often escorted under heavier guard. These do not walk, they float, sedate in stasis orbs. The Emperor's presence calls to them more clearly, and in some it evokes not awe, but madness. The Golden Throne does not merely feed on Psykers, it consumes them, 1,000 each day, more during times of galactic crisis. This is not metaphor. It is a living fact known by those who serve in the deepest catacombs beneath the palace. The Black Ships do not deliver citizens, they deliver fuel. The final disembarkation is ritualized. Psykers are led down from the ship in long processions, shackled, drugged, or bound in psychic suppressor fields. They pass through the Gate of Souls, a monolithic portal guarded by custodians who do not speak, who never blink. Some Psykers scream, others weep. A few go silent entirely. Not by will, but because their thoughts have already been consumed by the proximity of the throne. Many never make it through the gates. They die on the threshold, minds collapsing, bodies falling like puppets with cut strings. These are quietly taken aside, their bodies cremated, their names never spoken again. For the survivors, the walk continues through halls so vast they seem like canyons, lined with statues of saints, primarchs, and nameless warriors. They are not told where they are going. They are not told why. Most will never see the surface again. The Black Ship, now emptied, does not linger. Its crew does not rest. The Sisters of Silence return to their inner sanctums. The servitors begin sterilization. The ship readies itself to leave, to begin again. A new route. A new harvest. No one thanks the Black Ship, no banners are raised, no names are remembered. But every vessel that enters the warp, every astropath who sends a message, every navigator who charts a course, all depend on what has just transpired. The sacrifice of those Psykers ensures that the Astronomicon continues to shine. And so the ship departs, silent, cold, unmourned, but always returning. Some things never leave the Black Ships. Not every soul consumed by fear fades cleanly into the warp. Not every death aboard the vaults is final. Across the centuries, with millions of Psykers passed through and countless screams absorbed into their metal hulls, some of these ships begin to change. They become haunted, not by ghosts in the traditional sense, but by echoes, psychic residues, warped impressions burned into reality by suffering too intense to dissipate. These echoes manifest in ways that are difficult to catalog. A Sister of Silence walking a known corridor may feel a presence behind her, though no mind can exist within her null aura. A servitor may stall in its track, repeating a motion with precise mechanical terror, as if trying to erase something only it can see. In interrogation cells long vacated, lights flicker in rhythm with long-forgotten screams. Doors sealed for centuries vibrate without cause. Sometimes it begins with the crew. A junior astropath aboard one such vessel, newly assigned to monitor psychic noise levels, began sketching faces in his logbook. Faces he insisted he had never seen, until one day, a high-ranking Psyker recognized one of the faces as a sibling, lost to the harvest 20 years before. The astropath was found catatonic days later, his mind stretched thin, mumbling prayers to a ship that did not answer. Other times, it's the Psykers themselves who report it, whispers from the walls, shapes in the void between sleep and waking. They describe the ship as alive, but not with machine spirit or Geller field mechanics. They speak of a presence behind the bulkheads, listening, waiting, feeding. Some even give it a name. Not one in high Gothic or demon cant, but in the strange, intimate phrases children give to imaginary friends. The Watcher in the Steel. Mother below the vaults. The echo that screams in reverse. These are not daemons. Not entirely. Warp entities are known, studied, fought. These are something else. Fragments of mortal minds so violently unmoored from reality that they never found their way into the immaterium. Instead, they fused with the ship itself, with its pathways and chambers and forgotten ducts. A memory so strong it burns through time. A nightmare that wakes on its own. The Mechanicus does not acknowledge these anomalies. If a black ship shows signs of pattern corruption, they recommend physical restructuring, ripping out whole wings, re-blessing the steel, flooding compartments with holy radiation. If the haunting persists, the ship may be decommissioned. But it's rare. Most are simply rerouted. Let the ship carry its ghosts. Let it howl quietly through the void. So long as it delivers its cargo, its secrets are overlooked. There are deeper levels to this phenomenon, parts of ships never placed on official schematics. Hidden sanctums of the Adeptus Astra Telepathica, where soul echoes are studied like infections. Here mind scries are aimed not outward but inward, watching for fluctuations in psychic residue. Entire vaults have been locked not because of what they contain, but because of what they remember. One such chamber is said to house the Weeping Choir, a harmonic resonance caused by 30 Psykers who died mid-chant during a warp breach. No one enters, but the walls sing. Only when the ship passes through certain star systems. The Sisters of Silence, bound by duty, endure these anomalies with grim silence. They do not fear the echoes. Their null presence makes them resistant, but not immune. Some sisters begin to act strangely. They leave tokens in certain chambers, small relics, old photographs, broken rosaries, as if acknowledging something, as if apologizing. It's not just Psykers. Sometimes echoes emerge from crew who died violently or with great emotional weight. A Medicae tech once refused to sedate a child marked for extraction. She vanished. Weeks later, her voice was heard in the Vox system, reading passages from the Lectitio Divinitatis. No source was found. The Vox had not been powered on. There is a theory, radical heretical, that black ships, through sheer repetition of psychic torment, are becoming semi-sentient. Not with machine spirit awareness, but with something older, something darker, that they are learning, that the suffering within has given them a kind of will. A hunger not just to transport Psykers, but to possess them, to keep them. That every black ship is slowly becoming a crypt, not of bones but of remembered agony. And yet the Imperium continues to use them. Because there is no choice, the Astronomicon must be fed, the warp must be navigated. And if some echoes remain, so be it. Let the ships carry their ghosts, let them whisper, as long as the light shines. The black ships are the shadow beneath the Imperium's golden lie. They do not boast, they do not parade, they do not even fly the banners of the Imperium that birthed them. They glide silently across the void, ferrying not soldiers, not supplies, but humanity's own future. Screaming, terrified, and most often doomed. Yet in their silence, they tell us everything about the Imperium. About its cost. About what must be sacrificed so that one man might continue to sit on a throne that drinks souls instead of giving justice. To look at a black ship is to see the truth beneath the slogans. The Emperor protects, but through a process so brutal it defies comprehension. The Imperium is humanity's shield, but it feeds that shield with the blood and minds of its own children. Each ship is a monument not to victory, but to managed extinction. The black ships are not signs of strength. They are evidence of how fragile mankind has become. What kind of civilization requires the daily murder of thousands to survive? What kind of God demands the minds of the gifted be silenced, bled dry, or erased from existence? And yet, the alternative is worse. Without the Psyker harvest, the Astronomicon goes dark. Warp travel fails, the Imperium collapses, Xenos and daemons flood the stars, billions die. The black ships are not a choice. They are the final compromise of a dying species. They also reveal the layers of fear and control that the Imperium must maintain. Fear of the warp, fear of mutation, fear of knowledge, but also fear of compassion. The entire system depends on no one looking too closely. On governors meeting their quotas without questioning who these Psykers are, on crew executing protocols without considering the souls behind the labels, on inquisitors burying anomalies rather than understanding them. Because if anyone looks too long, the whole lie unravels. And yet, there is something tragically beautiful about it. The sheer scale of the sacrifice, the ritual of it, the unflinching acceptance, the humanity stripped to its bones and still clinging to purpose. Even in the silence of the sisters, even in the madness of the Psykers, even in the shadows cast by vault lights, you can feel it. This is what the Imperium is, a monument of suffering stacked high enough to touch the stars. A civilization that survives not because it is right, but because it refuses to die. The black ships do not boast, but their presence is louder than any sermon. They are the quiet reminder that hope in this galaxy comes with a price. So when one hovers above your world, do not look away. Watch, listen, understand. And if you've made it this far, if you felt the cold of their silence through every story shared, then subscribe to the channel. Join us again as we pull back more veils and peer deeper into the darkness behind the Imperium's light. Because in the grim darkness of the far future, even silence tells a story.